My name is Richard Zimmerman. We are in here tonight to speak to Ann Wilmer, who is a long-term resident of the borough of Laurel Springs. This is part of the Laurel Springs Centennial Celebration, and we will be interviewing many other people in the community. Ann, when did you were born in town?
Yes.
Would you tell us about where you lived and your neighbors and anything you can think of?
Well, I was born on Stone Road.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived there until I was about 25 years old. Then I moved over to Fairmount Avenue in Laurel Springs.
Where you are now?
Yeah.
Yes. You were born on Stone Road before it was Stone Road?
Yeah. Yes, it was Linden Avenue.
Yes. You want to tell us why it was called Stone Road?
It was just, I don't know any reason why.
Dr. Stone.
Oh,
it was named after Dr. Stone after he passed on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
What are your early recollections of Laurel Springs, the business section, the community, the school?
Well, we really didn't even have to leave town. We had a beautiful district at Laurel, and we had the stores, we had the bank, we had the post office, we had a little shoe store, we had Sam's Market, we had the sweet shop, we had like a little hardware store. We had, I think it was A&P.
Yes.
And then Acme. And then we had like a little 5 and 10. Denby's. And then there could have been a barber shop there. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, there was a barber shop on the Gus Mesker's barber shop.
Yes.
And then on the other side was Fred Casario's barber shop. Yes.
And then there was another, like a little store next to that. But it didn't even have to leave town.
No, you had everything you needed.
Right.
And how was the railroad involved in the community?
Well, I don't remember. The only thing that I never went on the trains, but my dad did. And the only thing I remember the trolley cars. And my brothers and I used to go down Clementon Park to the park. They
ran down East Atlantic Avenue all the way to the park. Yes. Looking back, your first home on Stone Road, who were your neighbors, and if you know, what did they do?
Well, I was small when I was. When I got a little older, I remember we lived next door to Mr. Nicholson. I think he had a car dealership. If I'm not positive. Then Mayor Wise came in. And then I think after Mayor Wise left, a family by the name of Foster's moved there. But I lived in that house until I was married. So, but the rest of the there was a lot of neighbors I knew. The Langs, Charlie Lang's grandmother, the McClays, the Brosics, the Havertys. The Langs, another Mrs. Davis, Mrs. Rogers, Streetons.
Yes.
And
remember Bill Streeton?
Yes.
Bill Streeton was the local municipal worker who did everything from pick up trash to help people to drive the Girl Scouts to camp.
Right.
Yes, they used to go over to Italianic Way, and they would put them all in the back of the truck and drive them over there. It was long before insurance problems.
Oh, well, I used to go up there and play with his granddaughter. And that's why, but I was because my sisters used to go over they had girlfriends in these houses, and I was over to them I went with them all the time. And that's how I became to know quite a few of them. But there were a lot of people across the tracks that I used to play with. The girls I used to go around and play with, like Doris Stafford, and I used to play with Sue Cassia, and the girl by the name of Marge Reagan. I used to be with her. A lot of friends. I had a lot. I can't remember a lot of them.
What are your recollections of the school and your teachers and your class?
Well, when I went, my mom didn't send me till I was 7 years old, and I was put into first grade, and I loved my first grade teacher, Mrs. Ardell. And back then they kept you, 2 grades.
Sure.
So I was with her for about 2 years, and I didn't want to go home in the afternoons. I just wanted to stay with Mrs. Ardell.
Yeah.
I liked her so much, and she was so kind to me. She influenced me by reading, and she used to say, "You read and you study," and to this day I'm a reader. So, and then we had a lot of activities in that school that I enjoyed. We used to go out at recess and play soccer, and we used to have high jump, and we used to have all kind of activities I enjoyed. All kind of, like May Day and all those things. You're bringing back a lot of things.
Yes, that's the idea. Yes.
Yes, a lot of activities we had. And then we used to, my brothers and I had a lot of friends, and we used to all go down there and do all kind of activities together.
Would you name the members of your family and where they are?
Yes. Well, a lot of them are deceased.
Yes.
There's only 4 of us left. And Johnny, my brother John, he lived in Wyoming, and he's 90 years old. And at the present time, he's in a convalescing home here.
Yeah.
And my sister Ruthie, she lives in Gibbsboro. She's 95. And my Elwood is deceased. And my sister Joni, she lives down in Absecon. And that's all that's left out of the family, and myself.
Yes. And how about the rest of your family, your children?
Oh, well, Linda, she lives in California. Sharon lives in New Hampshire. Julian and David live close by in Winslow.
Your daughter had an unusual distinction.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us about it?
Oh, my Linda.
Yes.
She was quite a girl.
Yes.
She did very good in school, and she became a very fine teacher. And she loved what she did. And she just retired not too long ago. And she was always, she loved to dance, and she loved all kind of activity, more so than her mom. And I was more the homemaker. But then when she went to college, she went to Glassboro, and then she came home one day. Well, begin with my young daughter Sharon came home from Collingswood, and she was crowned of Collingswood, the snow queen, and the young man from town, I believe, was King and Queen.
Right.
So Linda got a little envious about that. She said, "I'm not going to let her beat me, my little sister." So she decided, she went to Glassboro, and she decided one day she was going to go for the Miss New Jersey. And I was against it, really. I said I didn't think she had to prove anything. And I said, "Why do you have to do it?" And her dad said, "Do it, Linda.
Sure. Yeah.
Do it." So I said, "Okay." Well, she did it, and you never realize these things are going to happen, but she was crowned Miss Glassboro.
She became Miss New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
What were some of the things she had to do during her year?
Well, there was a lot. I had 2 younger boys, and it was difficult with these 2 young boys. And going around with her at all these places she had to go, I was her chaperone. And then there was a lady who was the head of this New Jersey pageant, and she used to help me out when I couldn't go. And it was fine. It was fun, but it was a little difficult sometimes for me too. But she loved it.
She went to the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City.
Yes.
What was her reactions to that?
She loved it.
Yep.
She was very happy. very. She enjoyed
Yep.
that.
Sure.
And then she went on the Miss U.S. tour, which I was very upset about because of the Vietnam. And
Yep.
she went over there amongst all that, and I was a little worried about
Yep.
that whole
Sure.
situation. And when she comes home and she tells me the experiences that she had, that she was up in the helicopters and they were shooting around her, and that was very upset.
Didn't sit well with Mama.
No.
No.
And then she said they decided, it was very warm, so
Yep.
they decided that they would go swimming, the group of the USO. So the young men, all she said, it was dangerous, but she said they let them swim, and then they stood around them with machine guns. And that didn't go over too well either. But all in all, she enjoyed every minute of it.
Has to be a great experience for somebody.
It was,
Yep.
and I'm glad she had that
Sure.
experience.
In your family, what are your children doing now?
Well, Sharon, she lives in New Hampshire. She doesn't have children. And she is in computers up there. And then Linda's retired. And my two boys, the one boy's in computers. He works in Philadelphia, Julian. And David, at the present time, is unemployed. But they both live down in Winslow, close by.
Let's change the topic a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about the community. You've seen a lot of changes in the community, some good, some bad, some indifferent. What are the community activities that stand out as something that you were really interested in, or your kids were really interested in?
Well, I used to love, when growing up, I liked being in the Girl Scouts and things like that. And
who were some of your leaders? And
now I was trying to remember. One lived on Madison Avenue, and I was trying to remember her name, and I cannot remember it. It came to me once, and now I don't remember. But she was a leader for quite a few years. And but I remember we went to the fire company. That was that old fire company.
Yes.
I remember going there, and she held her meetings there. And then we also went down to the one along Stone Road. We were there. I went there.
which became Arlene's Sweet Shop,
Yes.
which became a private house. Yeah.
Yeah, but I cannot remember her name.
As I recall, it was a very active troop in the town. The kids were doing all kinds of things. They were horseback riding. They were doing special events throughout, which tells you that part of the community was really involved with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lovely little. It was a nice place to live. I mean, really, you didn't even have to leave the way the town was. Of course, my mom used to take us down to Clementon, and Clementon was quite a place.
That was quite a shopping center.
Yes, it was. It really was. And we didn't have the things they have today, you know, these big shopping things. You had to go up to Camden.
Sure.
It's like the Hurleys and places like that up there in Camden.
I went past the Hurley store a few days ago. It's a shame.
Really?
It's the store's still there, but it's all boarded up.
Oh.
And that was one of the premier places to purchase furniture. Hurley's and Van Skyver's.
Van Skyver's,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
I was 20 years old. I purchased quite a few of my furniture at Van Skyver's.
Oh yeah. Tell us a little bit about some of the social activities that were going on in the town, because there were a lot of small group organizations. World War II, there was the service club where they raised funds to buy every returning soldier or every returning military member a bond. And there were a lot of other small groups that did various things, where the churches were very active. Was your church active?
Well, I was raised in the Baptist church. In fact, I was married in this church.
Yep.
By Reverend Watson.
Oh, yeah.
That was his first marriage.
How about that?
And but we, as I say, we did a lot of things in the church here. We did a lot of. Sometimes we came here for Girl Scouts and things like that. And we did a lot of little things, but I cannot remember too many of those ones. And we did a lot, I know.
Yep. They'll come back. They'll come back. Yep. How about Laurel Lake? Do you remember anything about the? At one time, it was quite a recreation area.
Beautiful.
Yeah. What can you tell us about Laurel Lake?
Laurel Lake, we had a lot of fun.
Yes.
Because Keener's house was there, and they had like a pier there.
Yep.
And I remember, I was small then, but my sister Ruthie and Eppie and my Johnny and Elwood, Mother would let me go, because I was quite small, and Mother would let me go down there. And it was a beautiful lake. And my oldest brother, Buddy, they also had, if I can remember correctly, they had a refreshment stand there, and my brother, Buddy, had a canoe. And they remember they put their canoes there.
Yes.
And my brother had a canoe, and he used to take us out in his canoe. But my brothers and sisters and I we had a lot of fun. The only thing I didn't like sometimes is I was sitting on the pier, and a snake came up and went across my leg. And after that, I kind of was not too happy about swimming in that lake.
Yes.
But we had a lot of fun. They had those swings out in the lake, and we did have a good time.
Used to be quite a fishing hole too, especially down by the old mill. We just had a Victorian Christmas at the Whitman Stafford house, and a lady brought in 3 pictures of Laurel Lake. One was an ice skater in the middle of the lake, and the other 2 related to the Laurel Mill, which is long since burnt down. And it's really interesting, some of the stuff that people still have.
It's when my Linda comes home, she likes to go around town.
Sure.
She loved this town. And she and my brother, my oldest son, Julian, like to ride around. And in fact, she walks around when she comes home. And she just loves it here. And I say, well, I've seen a lot of changes.
Sure.
A lot of places that to me were kept very nice aren't like that anymore. Yes. I think sometimes I told her, she doesn't agree, but I said, when I was growing up, I said, the people seem to take more pride in their homes, in these homes in town, than they seem to now. And she doesn't agree with me, but I, from a child, I saw how they were kept.
Every house had a big lot next to it. The kids would play on the lots, and it was eventually, after World War II, they started to be sold off and sold off and sold off. I don't think there are any lots left in the town.
No,
it's a shame. Yep.
No.
But there's some beautiful old houses that people have started to restore. And that's the neat part, where people are starting to realize history is important, and they're bringing it back.
Well, I still say that she doesn't agree with me, but I said, honey, you didn't live back here when I did, and lived here when I did, and I said it still is. It was a lovely little town, and they did. I think they took more pride. I think in everything.
What are your memories about things like the police department, the fire department, and that sort of service in the town? If you remember back in the old days, because everybody used to be a volunteer. Now that's still taking place in the fire department, but I remember the early police department, and first there was not much crime. But you would have, around mischief night, you would have 6 or 8 people from the community go out as temporary policemen who would patrol the community and chase kids. And that was the big thing. You remember mischief night in the bank?
That's what I was just going to do.
Yeah.
But because my brother was in on that, my oldest brother. And he, I think it was I can't forget their names. One boy was Lang that he went with, and I get the other ones. And he said if I can remember correctly what he used to tell me, they put a cow in front of the bank.
No, that was in the movies.
In the movie?
Yes.
I know they did that.
Yep.
I remember putting that cow somewhere.
Yep. It was Burger's cow. You remember Papa Burger?
Yes, definitely.
Well, Papa Burger was the janitor of the school, and he was beloved by every kid. And he had over on Trenton Avenue a little farmette. He had a pasture behind his house and a barn, and he had a cow. Mm-hmm. So mischief night or thereabouts, one of the locals or two of the locals, it depends on who you talk to, the story changes, borrowed the cow, and while the movie was going on, suddenly the side door opened and the cow arrived. And that's kind of Laurel Springs folklore.
Yeah, well, he told me about that cow. He was in on it.
Yep.
I wanted to tell you too, when my Linda was Miss New Jersey,
mm-hmm.
this town was so wonderful. That parade they gave her was, we could never.
I remember the billboard that was out on a white horse bike. Yeah.
In fact, people, were not off of my mind anymore. Our mayor, Jack Hagan.
Oh, yes.
Well, Jack had a sign outside of his house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, people thought that's where I lived.
Mm-hmm.
They assumed that I lived there. But I remember that we were just astonished at what hell.
I think the first reaction was everybody was surprised.
Yeah.
Because those things don't happen to local people. That's the general feeling of people.
Yeah.
And then they were proud of it. And they wanted her to have the best year she could have.
Well, she never got over that.
Yep.
She thought that was just she never thanked the town. She thought that was wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And it was. And we were so grateful for what you did, for what the town did for her.
Yep.
Because when she was crowned Miss Miss Glasper, and when she went to Miss New Jersey, I never really, you don't really anticipate what's going to happen. And when she was crowned Miss New Jersey, well, I was just
kind of stunned.
I was,
Yeah.
you know, because my family never were into anything like that, you know, with pageants and things. And but Linda, she did it.
More power to her.
Yeah, and she's still like that. She's
That's
very,
good. Yeah.
she's a very active young lady.
Mm-hmm.
She's in everything in her church, and she just, I kid her, because she'll say to me, Mom, you should come out here and live with me. And I said, honey, you're never home.
Thinking about Laurel Springs, you were here when we were going to war. Mm-hmm. And what were your reactions to what was going on around the world and how it was affecting Laurel Springs and the people of Laurel Springs?
Well, it affected my two brothers.
Yes. Both in service?
Yes. Both of them were very young when they went in. And Johnny, he went through a lot because he was over, I think, in the Battle of the Bulge.
Randy Lynch was in the Battle of the Bulge, too. Mm-hmm. Yes.
And Johnny saw a lot. And in fact, he just happened to say the other day, I don't know what it was, we were talking, and he says, you know what? He says, I never forgot about a young German boy. He said that I had to shoot. Mm-hmm. And he said it'll always stand out in my memory. And he did go. Elwood and my husband were on ships, and they saw a lot too. Mm-hmm. But I think Johnny saw quite a bit.
If he was on the ground in the Battle of the Bulge, he did very definitely.
Yes, he did.
That was at that point. If they had lost the Battle of the Bulge, they would have had a major. They'd extended the war another year or more. Oh boy! And it took a horrific toll on people.
Yeah, well, it did my mom because everybody in this town. You never knew when you were going to get that telegram.
Right.
And my mom I used to look at her, and I know every time the mail would come, she would just, as every mother and every family was
Yes.
feeling.
I remember the service flags, about so big with stars on it for the number of service members. And it seems to me Mrs. Dunn had 6. It was a big family, and most of the boys, I think one girl was in the service. I'm not sure of that. But there were a lot of people in Laurel Springs that came out of high school and enlisted. Because I know many of them, most of them have passed on at this point in time, but there was a great deal of patriotism in the community, and they wanted to enlist together and try to stay together, but I don't think many of them did. We're getting towards the end here. Looking back, is there anything that really sticks out in your mind as important to Laurel Springs, or makes Laurel Springs what it is?
Well, I always felt it was a lovely town. And in fact, my Sharon, she's funny. She'll say to me, Mom, how come you didn't buy one of those great big houses across the railroad tracks? She's always telling me that. I said, you know what? I never thought I was going to stay in Laurel Springs because my husband was from Baltimore.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I said, it just happened that I found that house, and my husband said, we're going to stay in Laurel Springs. But you know what stands out with Linda and my kids? It was the 4th of July. The 4th of July, my daughter tells all her friends in California what wonderful 4th of July we had.
Used to be big.
Yes.
Yes.
I miss them.
Yes.
They were fun.
Yes. Yes.
She really does. She emphasized it to all her friends, how she loved this little town. She always loved this little town. And as I say, when she comes back, she just walks all over and tries to see her friends. And as I say, Barbara and Terry and other little girls have stayed friends for years, and which has made me very, I feel very good about that.
Wonderful. Well, we thank you for your time and interest in joining us, and you're adding to the oral history of the community, which will be saved. So maybe 50 years from now, someone will pick it up and listen to it.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Good